Hi, my name is Craig Patterson. I'm FSP's partner for Data and AI, and today we're going to have a conversation about AI agents. I'd just like to introduce some of my colleagues, or get them to introduce themselves. So, Matt, do you want to introduce yourself first?
My name is Matt Jennings. I'm a partner in our cloud engineering practice.
So I'm Sarah. I'm part of our data and AI team, and I mostly do data engineering and machine learning work.
Hi, I'm Carver. I work as a senior consultant in the governance, risk and compliance team.
Okay, let's get started. Okay, let's start with a lighter question. So I'm going to kick off with you, Matt, and then ask everyone the same question. So this is about AI agents. So can you tell me a story about a really good or a really bad experience you've had with an AI agent and what that makes you ponder from a leadership perspective?
Yeah, I think that the best AI agents are the ones that are transparent. So I think of the AI agents that we use in our home. So we have robot vacuums, we have smart sensors and smart heating. And they're the ones that are transparent, that we don't automatically think are technology based and help us with our day-to-day tasks, are probably the most successful ones.
Nice. Sarah?
So I totally agree with Matt. I think that overall, just anything that seamlessly integrates in our day-to-day life. So, for example, I don't think that a few years back we would think that, for example, ChatGPT or Copilot could be something that we use in our day-to-day, that we would just be asking questions to an AI and getting answers from there. But that's seamlessly integrated to most people's lives today. I think most people in our lives, even people who maybe are not very technology proficient, have at least tried one of these type of AIs. And I think that for AI agents, it's more or less the same.
Nice. Carver?
I think one of the worst uses in business context of an AI agent I've seen is, I don't know if anyone's come across them, but these meeting note takers. So I was on a committee once, and one of the attendees in their place had invited an AI agent to the meeting, not informing the chair, and the AI agent announced itself and then proceeded to take notes of the meeting. So obviously this opened a can of worms about confidential information being recorded, and it completely changed the nature of what the participants were willing to disclose. So I think that's an example of AI gone wrong.
It's a nice mix there. I've had good and bad experiences. Bad experiences tend to be like really overconfident chatbots, right? That just let you know that you've got it wrong. It's like, I haven't got it wrong. And then they hand over to a very pleasant human being who knows they have to recover from a very unpleasant chatbot experience. So I think the bad experiences I get are when the handoff is really bad and it's not designed round about the human. Yeah.
I'd like to build on that. I think that's a really good point. I recently renewed my car insurance and I started with the chatbot, and that was really good. And it asked me an awful lot of information. It couldn't really do anything with the information once it received it. So all that did was just elongate the process, because I ended up speaking to a human after that, and that went really, really well. But the first part of the process was supposed to streamline it, and actually what it did is just elongated the process, and that just ends up being a really bad customer experience.
Very quick question. I'll go through, start with you and we'll go around. When you speak to an AI agent, are you polite?
I think generally I am, but that's quite an interesting. Generally, from the experiences I've had, it's quite obvious that an AI agent is an AI agent. In most cases, the agent announces that it is, but even in others, I think we still haven't quite got there in terms of passing the Turing test with some of these AI agents. There's still a sort of an unnatural feel about it. But regardless of that, I think it's just ingrained in us to be polite, and we may subconsciously think it will get us a better result or a more accurate result than otherwise. Yeah.
And are you polite, Sarah?
Yeah, I'm always polite. Many times I end up saying thank you to a Copilot, but yeah.
And why are you polite?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it just feels natural. I think it's just, maybe it's not sentient, but I am. So for me, it feels better to just be polite, I think.
Oh, nice. Matt, you're going to continue the trend?
No, absolutely not. No, I don't think I am polite when I talk to any AI agent or chatbot. And I think the reason is because I see the AI in a chatbot to save time. So I may have lots of different windows open, and I may be talking to a few chatbots at that time, or Copilot or other features. So for me, it's about efficiency and speed. So unfortunately, no, I'm not
Oh, ouch, ouch. So my daughter takes the mickey out of me because I always say thank you. Even asking the car to play music, could you please play this tune for me? Thank you, right? When it comes up. So I think I've become polite because I watched a friend be very impolite, and it was quite embarrassing. I had to almost cover my daughter's ears. She was much younger at the time. It's like, that's not how you speak to anybody, right? So I think my politeness has come from that. But then I also read somewhere that because these things aren't sentient, that they're predicting. So if you start with a positive tone, it builds in a positive tone. So I've convinced myself that being polite is in my ultimate goal off the back of that. So just watch yourself, Mr. Jennings.
Yes.
Right? So
yes.
actually, you've been told.
Yes, lesson
you've been
learned.
told. Yeah.
First lesson of the day.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we've got a bit of a structure for the conversation today. So we're going to talk about some of the sort of myths around agents. So we're all here because I think we're mostly positive about them and the opportunity. Mm-hmm. But what are some of the myths and legends that are out there so that we can bust those myths and then move on? And then after that, we'll tell some stories that we've had from customers and insights we've got, and then end on the sort of so what, the practical. So given the conversation we've had, I'm going to ask you each for a sort of guiding principle or advice to give to the people listening and watching this podcast. So I'm going to start with you this time, Kevin. So can you give me a myth, a legend, a falsehood in this space and bust it for me?
I think because of all the hype around AI agents, there's a lot of belief among organizations or individuals that they're these all-seeing or all-knowing black boxes that you can immediately deploy and will provide the answers to everything. Whereas whether it's via your individual interaction with the AI agent, or whether it's an organization deploying a Copilot or a GPT, they require training and testing, and more than that, they require specific prompts and guidance for you to get the result that you want. So I think that's relevant to the idea of AI agents being sentient and autonomous, which I would argue they're not. And also it's bears on this wider question of are they evil or are they good? And they are essentially what you make of them depending on how you train them and use them.
Excellent, thank you. Matt, I'm going to jump to you. Give us a myth to bust.
Yeah, I think the biggest myth for me is that we're here to compete. AI agents are here to compete with humans, and that is certainly not the case. AI agents and AI in general is here to complement humans. I think of some of the analogies from the past, and it could be, the farmer wasn't made redundant when the tractor was invented. And the digital technology expert wasn't replaced when Google and other search engines came along, and doctors weren't replaced when we invented and discovered antibiotics. So all these tools, AI and AI agents, are a tool to enable you to be the best version that you can be. I see AI agents very much as being the true digital twin. And the way that I see it is when we talk about digital twins, very much we think about our processes and how our businesses can be digitized. Actually, I see a digital twin being the digital version of myself and something that I can train, almost like Matthew 2.0, something, a little toddler that we can train into being the best version of what I can be. So that's the way that I see it's to complement, it's not to compete.
Excellent. Sarah?
So I think another myth is around AI agents that once you deploy them, that's it. All the work is done. You throw an AI agent into the wild and there's nothing else to do. And in the end, there's a maintenance work, there's a surveillance work, and also as technology progresses, there's also new risks, new threats, for example, around cybersecurity or around other elements, for example, of the data that has been trained on. Is it up to date? Or is our AI agent getting more and more outdated as time goes by? In the end, this is going to be a continuous process of improving and updating our AI agents. So yeah, I feel like a lot of people talk about AI agents as something that you develop once, you throw it out, and that's it. There's nothing else to do, no one maintaining it, no one being responsible and taking ownership for it. And that's not the case.
I think that's great because definitely a narrative around that. Can I please do an AI project and can I make it an agent because that's really easy because everyone else has got one. So people sort of come at it with this is the easy first way into it. And there is ways into it and we'll touch on the practicalities later. But just now it's like be realistic about those expectations from him. So I like the idea of you need to train it. It doesn't magically solve your problems. It needs to be viewed as complementing yourself, not competing with yourself, and that continuous improvement, which will take us on to maybe topics we'll cover later around that governance and oversight, particularly as these things learn very, very quickly. Yeah. So I'm going to check my wee list, right? And I've got my controversial question, right? Which is, I don't need consultants anymore because I've got insert name of agent here, right? So Matt, we're a consultancy business. Is this the end of us? Are we going out of business here? What's the future of consultancy with AI agents around?
I think Sarah just made a really good point that these things can't exist on their own. And we go back to the point about complementing services, and I go back to the analogy of a GP, of being access to medical records and having access to different types of medicines, and that access to data really, really quickly, and almost having, like I said before, a digital twin, a digital assistant that can help you do your job. So I don't see it as a threat. I think it gives us the way that we work is going to be very, very different. I think how people are going to conduct their jobs is going to be very different. But I can see it as an evolution of an opportunity for us all to grow, as we would do when we got access to search engines and Google and data and big data. It's not replacing us, but it is allowing us to do our jobs more efficiently. And the one thing really, and just going back to myths as well, that I think is really important. It's not just about efficiency and replacement. It's also about increasing accuracy. So the more access to data that we've got and being able to capture that and being able to make use of it really, really quickly allows us to be more accurate with the information that we've got. So again, if you're a general practitioner or you're pediatrician or something that's quite important in the medical world, then why wouldn't you want that? It's not replacing you, but it's certainly enhancing what you can do in your role.
Yeah. You look like you want to jump in?
Yeah, I think Matt's raised a lot of great points. For me, I think any technology or business change drives consultancy. So, for example, there's several aspects of deploying AI systems that naturally organizations will need advice on. So, touching on some of Matt's points, firstly, where an agent should be used. Obviously, there's going to be trade-offs with, can a human do that job versus can an AI do that job, or to what extent they're complementary, to what extent an AI should be deployed in a way that replaces human capability, or to what extent it's needed to augment human capability, such as helping doctors understand complex information, large groups of data, and then make an informed decision. And then touch on the points Sarah was making around the need to keep the AI up to date and to drive continuous improvement. Obviously, you could probably elaborate, but that will raise a lot of considerations about what work humans or what consultants need to advise on, keeping data up to date, keeping models up to date, and those sort of considerations.
Yeah, and I think whether it's consultants from an IT perspective or from a health perspective, a lot of it's knowing what questions to ask and knowing how to respond to that and what the follow-up question was about, and where it's is this a trend, or is this a blip, is this something different? So I think for all those roles, it's how are you making the person more impactful.
Yeah.
I read a great quote from a book. I wish I could remember the name of it. I read too many books, can't remember. But it was saying, know that the agent is not human, but speak to it like it's human, right? And you'll get the best interaction out of it because it's been trained on human data. So treating it like a human, but knowing it's not as a human is a nice balance to have. And then the other thing that kind of blew my mind was, assume this is the worst agent you will ever interact with. It's only going to get better, right? Mm-hmm. So at some point, I'd like to take the conversation round to, let's assume it's got better. What does it look like? So that's a trailer for a question to come later on. Like we'll start envisioning the future. Anything you want to add, Sarah, about the role of the consultant?
Yeah, no, from my perspective, it's just like, as they said, like, you need to be an expert to understand certain results from an AI agent or to be able to, put some surveillance over it. But in any case, like, okay, we train an AI agent on a consultant today, but tomorrow there's going to be something new that people have come up with. And even people learn from other people. So it's not really realistic to think that AI agents, once they are out there, are going to be completely independent for humans and not need them for anything. So in the end, it's going to complement our work, and we're also going to complement their capabilities going forward.
Yeah. I was speaking to someone from an NHS trust who their AI initiative was called the Seventh Consultant. And it was basically, they treated it like a consultant, and it did the early work. And then the human beings had a conversation about it and made the final decision. So thinking about it in a different way, that, to Matt's point, we're not here to compete, we're here to complement. And when you bring that new player in, play to its strengths. So for me, I think we're all naturally quite optimistic about it. So I'd like to move on to the next bit, and sort of like any sort of customer stories or experiences that you've had that have built that optimism for you. So, do you get any stories you want to share? Maybe start with yourself, Sarah, of working with customers where using an agent has helped them to be more productive, helped move forward how they think about it and how they have a positive impact with it.
So I think for me, the best use cases are the internal ones, because I think you learn more about how useful it is as the user rather than as the person building it. And for us, one time we used it, well, it wasn't exactly an agent, but it was Copilot, to basically, there was a review that we needed to do of a document. And we needed to make it up to date and change the format. And so many of those aspects, there wasn't a need for an expert to do it, but that was the person that was assigned to that role. So then instead we trained an AI to do some of those tweaks, and we just had to revise it, and that saved massive amounts of work. And then we are internally working, part of the team is internally working on potential AI agents, for example, for us to query on the skill matrix of our team, so that in that way we can just ask, hey, what is Craig good at? And then it comes back with, well, Craig is good at this. He has these certifications, he can help you with this, without us having to go around asking everyone, hey, did you know someone that knows how to do this?
Yeah, I like it. And I think it's those small, immediate examples that make our lives easier, but to the previous point, make us ask harder questions or wrestle with harder questions as people. It's a good example. Matt, anything you want to jump in?
Yeah, I think it's a natural continuation of digital transformation experts and consultants, is that AI and AI agents are a tool. So it's a technology tool, and being able to shape that to get the best value, that any business being able to get the best value. The technology is not the answer. The business has got a problem statement, and being able to identify the problem statements and get technology to be able to answer that the best way and get the efficiencies is always the answer for, and always the approach for anybody in consulting or transformation. I think there's one example, really, there's a couple in the US at this moment in time, but there's one example of health professionals, again, being able to take on board multitude of different prescriptions and different prescribed medicines. So if somebody's on a cocktail of drugs, it may be something that they've had major organ surgery or replacement. If you're then looking for additional drugs or being able to swap and change those out, there's an awful lot of time for what we would do over in this country, a general practitioner, to work on what the differences are and where each drug matches each other, or if there's any problems being able to mix these drugs, being able to use AI to put all of that information in together, to being able to say, actually, you've got a problem, you can't mix this product with this product, or actually you need this, but you can replace it with an alternative because these are the side effects, I think is really, really powerful. So just as an example for that, I know that this has been trialled in the US for telehealth at this moment in time, and early diagnosis of even things like the onset of dementia and heart failure has gone from circa 60% up to about 75-80%. So being able to capture those things really early on are quite powerful, but also being able to capture problems with drugs and pharmaceuticals really early on is really powerful at this moment in time.
I mean, it does sound like a bit of a superpower if you do it right. It boosts me as a person to have a bigger impact, to in the medical example, to touch more people's lives and to help people. So it's in a way to accelerate you to have a bigger impact. Have you got a story you want to tell us?
I think I've seen a lot of the examples similar to what Sarah and Matt were talking about efficiency, where introducing an AI agent has massively improved the amount of data and informed decisions. I think I've seen some circumstances where it solves one problem and it creates another one. So, for example, one organisation I was working with a few years ago was a council that were implementing an AI agent to help make decisions around the allocation of benefits within a community. So, in that situation, the issue was that the model that was developed, they had a lot of difficulty in explaining how it functioned to individuals, and obviously there's an issue there if people have been, not allocated fairly a disability benefit or underpaid or something, that if you haven't developed the model in a transparent way or understanding its functions, its variables, it's how it works, you've then got the issue of a lack of trust potentially with the community, which may not be there, wouldn't necessarily be there if they were having a one-on-one conversation or they had a human that they could directly work with. So I think that's one example of where notwithstanding the benefits that you get, the efficiency benefits you get, you need to stay on top of understanding the models to avoid any impact on trust or reputation.
Have you got any thoughts around transparency?
And I was going to say that especially with models that affect people directly, especially when there's kind of an ethical aspect to it, explainability is really important, because it's not only about the transparency of what the model is and what it does, is the explainability. Are you able to get the thought process of the model, to know how it got from the input that you gave them to this output? If you're not able to provide that, then are you able to justify using it to make decisions on people's lives and impacting people potentially in major ways?
And building on that, it feels like there's a spectrum of things that are things you should look at for AI agents and things you shouldn't look at for AI agents. So could you share some characteristics of what a good AI agent opportunity would look like? So for the wrong reasons, I've just been told by my board I've got to do an AI agent project. Your job is to make me look good in this scenario, and it's really hard because I'm coming from the wrong place, right? So how would you guide me back to identifying the right opportunity to use an AI agent?
So I think that the opportunities arise in kind of two different scenarios. So you have low complexity tasks, and then you want to maybe support some of your team that are maybe early career, and they need, for example, some support on getting the right information to develop those tasks, or to just overall need a bit of extra support. So that's a good use case, and overall is something that they can do on their own. They just need a bit of extra support. And I think in general, any use case is something that there's some feedback from a user, a human person that is surveilling it. And then you also have high complexity tasks where any expert that uses an AI agent is able to distinguish between good quality and bad quality work. So then they are going to kind of reap the benefits of that productivity boost. But for example, if you wanted to maybe take a very complex task and use an AI agent to either do it on its own or have a surveillance by someone who's not an expert, how is that person to be able to tell if that's a proper result or not? So for example, the example of allocating benefits, that's a fairly complex task. There's a lot of things to take into account. If no one is overseeing that, how are you going to ensure that that's a proper result and that what you're doing is correct? But if, for example, you just need someone is, building a schedule, and they just need an AI agent to just go and see if care is available at this date or not, that's a fairly easy task. You can double check it, but you don't need any major input, and just need to check that it's not hallucinating.
Yeah.
Mainly.
And I think that hallucinations is a key point. There's a lot of chat around hallucinations, and it's almost like in my back pocket to go, that's why I'm not doing an agent, because it hallucinates. So can you give me a reality check on that? What should I be thinking about hallucinations? How do I manage it? How do I set expectations around about it?
So the thing is that most of the hallucinations come from the fact that the AI agent or any AI model is trying to be satisfied as the user. So they are checking their sources and they are not finding anything. You ask the question and they don't know the answer, but you expect an answer. They think that you want an answer. That's what is expected of them. So what they are going to do is invent one. Yeah. They are hallucinating. But most of the time, the model is aware in some way that they are inventing an answer. That's why it's important to either say like, it's okay if you don't know the answer. It works fairly well as a prompt, saying like, I have this question, but it's okay if the answer is I don't know.
Yeah.
It kind of filters off some of the hallucination. And then for example, for AI agents, for some of them, you're able to turn off some of the thinking of the AI so that it only gathers information from the sources that you provide.
Okay. So what I'm taking from that is like every time I interact with an agent, the second question should be, really? Right? Just to check.
Yeah. I mean, overall, it's just be skeptical.
Yeah.
In the end, like, it can be hallucinating. And overall, if you want to use the benefits of it, being able to maybe think or invent a bit more, you need to be more careful. If you just want something that takes the knowledge that you already provided and brings it back to you, then you're a bit more safer on the hallucination side.
Yeah. And I think you made the point about prompting. You sort of casually mentioned prompting, that there's definitely a skill in how to prompt an AI agent. How would you think about that?
Yeah, I think as part of any governance that you're rolling out, with in your case, in the example you gave, where there's a project that an AI agent needs to be implemented, there needs to be training and guidance to staff issued. So obviously that needs to be developed in line with the guidance from the developers of the AI system who know its limitations, and also it needs to be explained in a way that's practical and it's implementable by the teams that are likely to be using it. So I think that's one point definitely about the need for prompts to be clear. To support that, I'd say you also want to have some of the training and testing in mind as well. So when deploying the AI system, you want to consider where there be any of those gaps that could cause hallucinations, and also where there be any false positives and negatives that may indicate a result that's not desired for ethical reasons, or that just doesn't meet your goal in terms of the accuracy and what purpose you want to use that AI system for.
Brilliant. And Matt, just from a leadership point of view, so if anybody's watching this and they've been tasked with beginning their AI journey or doing the first AI agent, given this sort of conversation, we're going from myths and reality and back and forward, what would you be asking them to think about at this point in time? So if you're a leader about to do something with AI agents, how do you bring this together and go, think about these things?
I would say, what do you want to get out of it? What do you do as a business, whether it be your people, your process, your technology and data? What do you want to do better, faster, cheaper, more accurately as well? Because that's something that we miss. We think it's just about efficiencies and cost savings. Think about your business problem statements that you've got at this moment in time, and then AI can start shaping a solution around your business, not the other way around.
Excellent. I'm just taking some notes to sum up later on. You're all just being too insightful for me. I'm running out of paper here, right? I'm going to do a bit of time travel now, right? So I like doing a bit of time travel. Everyone's got to have a hobby, okay, right? So this is 2025, right? We're having this chat about AI agents. It's pretty much the beginning of this. So let's time travel to 2030, 5 years in the future. All this stuff about hallucinations, we've got it. All this stuff about prompting, we're good about it. All this fear about putting me out of a job, we're comfortable whether it's to augment, not put me out of a job, right? So all these challenges that people are wrestling with just now have been put to bed. It's 2030. What's the AI agent conversation that we should be having? Matt, you can kick this one off.
I don't think we're having conversations about AI agents. I think we're going back to the point before, which is how can we make our businesses operate better? How can we as individuals operate better? I don't look back and think about how Google has changed my life. I know that Google's just there as a really good tool to make me a better work version of myself. And I know that other businesses are using, whether it be Google or iPhones or other smart devices, that just making them better versions of themselves, helping their businesses grow the way that they can by making people connected, having access to data and being more collaborative. I think it's going to be less about the tool and more about the outcomes that they provide.
Nice. And Sarah, for you, so time travel 5 years. You're still a machine learning AI consultant, but haven't been put out of a job by it just yet. Okay. What are you doing in 2030?
Yeah, no, I think they're going to be a lot more integrated in our lives. And I think for me, the question could probably be more around how they can improve quality of life in general.
Yeah.
I think like as Matt said, like we don't think that much right now about how much Google or any other things have changed our lives. They have, they definitely have. And it makes a significant impact, for example, in education or other sectors. The access to internet and the ability to have all of the information in the world in your pocket. So I'm assuming that probably in 5 years, AI agents, if they're integrated into our life, is something that we're not going to question much. Probably we're going to be thinking about what is the big next thing. As we do in the tech sector, it's always what is the next big thing. But I think we're going to be relying on them a lot. I just hope that they are one of the tools that we use to basically increase our quality of life overall and take advantage of the increase in productivity just to enjoy our lives more.
I love that because we're focusing less about the tech and more about the outcome. We're focusing about the people and the impact it has on them and potentially society. Anything you would add for your prediction for 2030?
I'd say I agree with all the thoughts that have been shared. Once the accuracy on all those issues have been narrowed or ironed out with the AI system, I'd say that the shift is more on a values level and more on the human AI interface. So that might be things such as how do we improve how we use AIs and what as Matt was saying, how they improve us as a worker or as a person. But it could also be how much do we want to use and rely on them? How much personal information do I want to allow an AI system to collect on me, to profile on me, to share with other organizations? I think at that point, there'll still be that consideration of how much do we want to automate our experiences and our lives, essentially.
Can I just build on that?
Sure.
We mentioned earlier on about digital twins, and I mentioned about a toddler, and maybe in 5 years' time that toddler's grown up a little bit and it's doing all the things that we want it to do, and it's access to data and access to information, and it's making our jobs easier, but very much there's that human element as well for just making sure that then I don't think that we should lose out on good communication with people and the value of sessions like this and being able to talk to people face to face. But actually what we do with the information after we've had that is, I think, is really important.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yes.
And just because you can doesn't mean you can afford to do it, right? There's lots of tasks that could be like automated on a journey towards bringing in AI that we're just not going to because it's not cost effective. It's not the right thing to do. So I think thinking of a world where so much of this is the new normal. I expect to have an agent to help me out. I expect that it has my best interests at heart, right? And I believe it has my best interests at heart. So into that bigger sort of societal thing of how do we make sure the agents that are popping up in our life have got your back, right? They're not just siphoning off your data for someone else to get wealthy. They're actually making me a better person, a more impactful person. I want to pick on the point, like you mentioned, Sarah, about we'll be talking about something else, right? And I think that's really, really key. Like, one of the joys of getting older, right? So Matt and I can bond over that, right? Is you see these waves coming, right? And the only thing that's going to stay the same is more stuff's coming and it's going to come quicker. So for me, AI agents is just an instance of the next big thing that we need to get our head around. So part of this conversation is when's the right time for you to bring it into your organization? Because it's coming, right? So how do you do it in the right way and get the right impact at the right time? And one of the things I've seen from a people perspective rather than an organizational perspective is let's all just try and use an agent, right? So demystify it. So about a year and a half ago, a colleague and I, we gave ourselves a challenge of bringing a new AI agent into our life once a month, right? And suddenly you can't do without stuff anymore. So it's like, I can't do without a search engine, because I used to go and find all that stuff, but now I need this. So I think there's a 2030 will be, I'm expecting to have multiple agents that have got my back. I've almost got my team of agents that have got my back. And then what does that allow me to do? So Sarah, you're always good for stopping me when I just go off on one, right? So if I'm thinking of a multi-agent world where they've got my back, what are you thinking? Is that possible?
Yeah, no, I think so. I do think that there's going to be something else. I think, in the last few years, it has changed a lot how the hype around any big new technology has developed, just because right now, instead of being just like the people in the digital world, people, for example, like tech consultants like us, looking into what is new, is the mainstream public. Because after ChatGPT came out and everyone got invested in the new AI model, new AI models and everything else, now suddenly everyone is looking into it. And this creates a bigger amount of hype, and also for me, it creates a lot of misinformation. So I think right now we need to be more careful than ever in being realistic with our expectations. But yeah, overall, I think in 5 years' time, we will be talking about something else, but I do think that AI agents are going to be in our lives.
Yeah.
And yeah, having your back for any task that you don't really want to do, you just want to check the results.
Excellent. I'm loving all these mini Craigs behind me, making my life better as we go. And I kind of joke about that because there may be a generational thing. So it takes a long time for things to embed in. So my daughter, mid-teens, just assumes that there'll be AI in her life and there'll be agents in her life. So do you think there's a different expectations across generations for what agents can do, and how might that shape our thinking? Cover.
I think younger generations are much more willing to accept them and to use them. I think from what I've seen as well, obviously speaking from a data protection perspective, younger generations are much more willing to trade off privacy for efficiency results. I think being brought up on social media, Facebook, TikTok, all of those applications that essentially farm data, and the fact that that's been normalized much more in the last 20 years means that teens, young adults are just much more used to technology, interacting with technology, using technology, and are not as perhaps not as private or more inclined to look at the downsides of those systems. But that's just my thoughts.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and I think that one of the key things in this next 5 years is going to be education around data privacy and about how to safely use AI or any other tool. I think that we have gotten really accustomed to trading our privacy and our information for services, and I think it would be good to maybe start educating the newer generations on the risk of that, because we all in our day-to-day are accepting terms of agreement of different tech services, but do we all read all of those?
Yeah.
Are we reading what we are signing up to?
Yeah.
So it's just being aware of the risks. In the end, it's great to have a service, but you need to be able to know and to understand what you're trading off for that service.
Yeah. But one of my favourite terms and conditions that I read, and I read some terms and conditions just for that point because I was ticking everything, and I won't name the company, but it said, due to the inconsistent implementation of Do Not Track Me, we ignore this setting. It's okay, right? So the implementation may be different, but the intention is the same. But I think we're still at that cusp at the moment of people being a bit liberal with the interpretation of terms and conditions and ticking away as we go through. And I think there is a sweet spot between what we can learn from younger generations that are bringing in, without the baggage of being through some of these early days, and what we can share about the reality of protecting yourself. Matt, you look like you want to jump in.
Yeah, so my parents and also my wife's parents are users of AI and AI agents. But I think it goes back to the point that we mentioned right at the start of this topic, which was about transparency. They don't think of technology and AI technology. They're thinking about the outcome, and the outcome for them is robot vacuum cleaner that is trawling the floor space and is learning data and is adjusting its work and it's adjusting its profile every day when it's having to learn new obstacles within the home. That you could really distill that down about the data that's being tracked and how that's going through, and the agents and the application and the software, or you could look at the outcome. So I'm thinking about all the technology aspects and how would I package that up into something that people would purchase or maybe utilize. And actually, my mother-in-law and father-in-law or using a robot vacuum cleaner. They're looking at the outcomes that they're getting from it, and that's much more palatable. And I think that that's where it spans multiple generations, because you're looking at the outcomes. Again, I know I keep mentioning the word outcomes, but we're doing it for a specific reason. It's there to deliver an outcome at the end. And for them, they get clean carpets. For me, I know that heating is adapted in my house depending on the humidity, but also the temperature outside. And that'll change automatically, again, depending on what's happening within the house. And we are using these, and we're not thinking about AI and the technology. They're just making our lives better. And I think that that's where it spans multiple generations.
Yeah, I think just building on Matt's point, another point around your analogy about terms and conditions is it's much more easy to explain outcomes than it is to explain how the decision was reached.
Yes.
And what information it used, and what information it collected around the individual, and how, and what logic it used to arrive at the final outcome in that case. And it's not a problem until it's a problem. So people click through terms and conditions. They don't, they just want the end benefit. They want the outcome. However, when the outcome isn't in their interest, such as the example I gave earlier about an AI system that unfairly allocates disability benefits amongst the community, at that point they're going to challenge. And at that point, what information was shared and can be shared with the individual about the decision becomes relevant.
So I'm going to start to bring us to a close. Okay, so it's been a great conversation. I feel smarter already. So we started with some of the myths and legends, started telling some stories, started thinking about multi-generational. Want to bring it to, the sort of cheeky question is like, so what, right? So we've been talking about this for a while, like, so what, right? So if someone's watching this and they're going, that was interesting, but I need it to get actionable, that's where I want to take the conversation to. I'm going to ask you each for a guiding principle, right? And we'll try and let's keep it to agent AI rather than general AI. So what guiding principle would you, or a piece of advice would you give to someone who's about to do something with agents that's going to set them up for success? So I'll start with Matt and come this way. So Matt?
I think it's about embracing change with AI agents. And if we go back to the digital twin, if you had a highly skilled, highly available version of yourself, what would you ask it to do?
Love it. Sarah?
From our perspective, is all about sustainable change, doesn't leave anyone behind.
Yeah.
So overall, like, as we have these conversations about AI agents or any new big technology, how can we ensure that we are taking everyone in this journey with us? How can we ensure that we are fair, that we are transparent with it, and that overall we're trying to make everyone's lives better, just using this technology and leveraging all of the power that it gives us.
Fantastic.
Keep a human in the loop. Remember that when you're using an AI agent, it is just an agent. It needs the correct prompts. You need to check that it's been trained correctly and it won't have any negative outcomes. And you need to keep an eye on it, monitor how it's used, and that it's used for positive outcomes, not negative impacts.
I think it's now like out in the world, and for people to kind of ponder and think critically about all these topics, because in the end, about anything technological, especially right now with AI, there's a lot of hype around it, and there's a lot of misinformation around it. So let's be realistic about expectations. There are great expectations, but still, let's keep it realistic.
Fantastic. Any parting thoughts?
I'd say the risk assessments are one way to bring together everything we've talked about. One way in an early stage of designing a project or engaging in the use of an agent, you can cover and engage all the teams in how it's going to be used, what information you have about the AI, and what the outcomes are going to be.
Brilliant. So for me, what I'm hearing is this is a big change that's coming, right? We can't fight the change. We need to embrace it. I love what you said. We need to think about it, right? This is a space where people take shortcuts. Don't take shortcuts. Like, think about it. Think about it in terms of outcomes. The outcome for your business, the outcome for your people, be it your customers, your employees, and the outcome for society. So for a little thing that people visualise, like the AI agent, it's got a very big impact. So thinking about that constant change, taking people on the journey and doing the right things, that sounds like how we set people up for success.
I think it's so easy as humans. We have a natural defense mechanism for all the things that we don't know. That's why we watch supernatural films and we're always worried about the things that we can't get a handle on. There's a little bit of that with AI agents at this moment in time, but the opportunities are certainly more than the threats that are out there at this moment in time. So embrace the opportunities and don't just think that it's going to lead us to a dystopian future.
Yeah. And it's a great way to end. Like, it's really easy to write dystopian futures. It's really hard to write utopian ones, right?
Yes.
And I think that's our mission. Right? This needs to be a utopian future. So on that note, thank you very much, everyone, for your contribution and time. I hope it was fun. I had a blast. I guess for people watching this, the main sort of thing is, as a leader, what are you doing to set up your people, your customers, and your organisation to embrace the realistic opportunity here, to think about it, not to leap in, but to make a real difference? So thank you very much, everyone.